The future of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is looking really fun, but also very dark, but very fun. 3 different archetypes from 3 different sets. If you're wondering how competitively viable these archetypes are, well, I'd like to tell you, they're very high. Number 1, Azamina has already proven itself because it's part of the Sinful Spoil storyline, and it provides you with true Sinful Spoil support. And then they also have Illusion Fiend and Illusion Light Spellcaster as the fusion material if you want to play pure fusion. Second archetype is going to be Malice, recently announced as part of Crossover Breaker, so this is a little bit further into the future, but they are looking to be pretty promising. They are malware mixed with Alice in Wonderland, and this is starting to look like the child of Kashtira blended in with Mathmech with a little bit of extra spice of D-Shifter. It's an archetype that plays very well into Banish because whenever the monsters get banished, they can summon themselves by paying a little bit of life points. I like the paying life points part because it makes it so that a combo deck, to engage in the combo, they can't just gain life and just win in time. This is one that requires you to play a bit faster, so I kind of like that, but it's starting to look like Mathmech blended in, so I'm not sure how much Joshua is gonna like that, especially if it's like Mathmech with Shifter. And after how many years, we finally get our next wave of evil hero support, truly allowing us to play Dark Fusion and Super Poly with more Super Poly targets available for that deck. But aside from the Super Poly, I think they also get an end boss monster. Yugi has Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, Yuma has Utopic Draco Future, while Jaden gets himself evil hero Neos Lord. They should have named it like Supreme Neos or like Neos Supreme. That would have been so cool. But, well, that's just the OCG name. Maybe in TCG they'll change the name. Please guys, just change the name. But this actually gives them a really cool boss monster, and we'll talk about that in a second. Now, before we get started, check out MSTmerch.com. The Carbon Series sleeves, silky smooth shuffle feel, nothing feels better. Express your aura with the Fire, the Instincts, the Ego sleeves, and protect them with tournament-ready over sleeves. We'd like to thank you for your support. Enjoy the discount. So we're back. We're shipping out to you guys, and I hope you guys enjoy the summer discount while it lasts. And let's get back to the video. Alright, let's start off with Azamina from Rage of the Abyss. So, Sinful Spoil support, part of their storyline, OCG that already meta. They get themselves an Omni Negate line before you perform any sort of your Snake Eye combo. So currently they're blended in really heavily in terms of competitiveness. They're blended in with Snake Eye because they're able to search out Witch now easier. In OCG, there's only one wanted, and they get to search that through the Azamina support. I don't know how it's going to play out in TCG until the ban list drops, but even if the ban list drops, it's still probably going to keep Snake Eyes in the loop, even if Flamberge gets hit. It also kind of puts Wanted in the targets for sure. It's definitely, they have their sights on it. But also being like Illusion Fiend support, this gives Chimera new options to remove your board once they build the board, which also makes Chimera Fusion an even stronger card. But luckily, Chimera Fusions, they're not really on anyone's radar, so, you know, they're pretty safe. But looking into their lineup, so these are the cards that you care about. Starting off from the left side, we have Ursula and we have Silvera. Both of these are the Light Spellcaster plus Illusion material. If you choose to fuse them the regular route, you don't actually have to, because the Azamina cards naturally will get you to summon these without even using a single monster, which is crazy. But when it comes to these monsters, Ursula is your card to add your Sinful Spoil card upon summoning. It adds Azamina or Sinful Spoil cards. And if it's destroyed, you get to add a Sinful Spoil spell. So that's pretty good. And it's also like a little bit of board control. As for Silvera, it doesn't look very strong with 1900, but it has a tribute-based Omni Negate effect. So it's kind of like Regulus. And it's really easy to summon because you actually get to summon both of these within one turn using one spell card. That's right, one spell card. Now looking into the middle, these are some of their most powerful spells. Sinful Spoil Deception and Sacred Azamina. Names are pending, of course. So you tribute one monster from your hand with Sinful Spoil Deception, you can add an Azamina card from your deck. So that's really good because that immediately leads into Sacred Azamina. But it has the other effects. If your opponent sends a monster to the graveyard while an Azamina is in your control, like one of the fusion Azamina monsters, you gain 1500 life points and your opponent loses 1500 life points. That creates a 3,000 life points difference, and if this card is in the graveyard, if it's sent to the graveyard this turn while it's face up, you just put it back onto the field. It just returns itself. It's so stupidly good. So in other words, you're dealing with another card that you might have to deal with in time. I'm just saying. And this is like good luck playing. And I'm a combo deck. And the combo gets even longer. I'll show you guys in a second. As for the Azamina card, this card's activation is not once per turn. So that's the first thing I want to note. Second thing is, this is your fusions card. But to perform the fusion, it's like a ritual summon. You reveal one of your extra deck monsters. All right, it's an extra deck monster reveal. Reveal a 6 or an 8 for every 4 level it has. So you send one Sinful Spoil card to the graveyard. So you would send the Sinful Spoil Deception above to the graveyard to summon out your 6s. That leads you to probably summon Rasila, and then you get to just get more Sinful Spoil cards and just keep going. And in the graveyard, you can shuffle back an Azamina monster to add it back to your hand. And guess what? You can activate it again because it's not once per turn. It's like Chimera Fusion. Only the add back is once per turn, but the activation is not once per turn. Yay! And on the right side, we have Richian? I don't know. The Fusion Fiend 6 and the Fiend 8. This one gives you a non-destructive removal for the Chimera decks. And although you could technically also use this to summon it through the Azamina cards as well. And then you also have the Fusion 8, which is summoning back one of your illusions, which is really good for bringing back like the Belze, or maybe just a Mirror Sword Knight. And then you get to perform a double pop if you activate like an Azamina card or a Sinful Spoil card. This is where the trap card kind of comes in handy. And that's the lineup, but let's take a look at the combo. So 1 minute version of the combo would be you go for Deception, send away the monster, adding Sacred Azamina. Azamina will send away the Deception to summon out Rasila. Rasila adds the Wanted into your hand, and you activate Wanted to get Deal Bellstar. If you don't have another card in your hand, activate the poster, putting back Deception and drawing a card. Then you can summon out your Diabellstar, add original Sinful Spoil Snake Eye into your hand, and then you go into Moon of the Closed Heaven, opening up your Fiendsmith line. And in the graveyard, Sacred Azamina can add itself back to hand by putting back the Rasila into the deck, and now you have it in your hand. You can activate it by sending away the original Sinful Spoil Snake Eye, and now you can summon out Azamina Silvera. Now you have your Omni Negate that's like Regulus, so it's hard to like counter with an Imperm. That's like really hard. And so now you can activate your original Sinful Spoil Snake Eye from the graveyard, putting back the Diabellstar to add Ash and normal summon out Ash, and you've opened both your Fiendsmith line and Ash line and have an Omni Negate, and welcome to that combo. But of course there's probably some disruption points in between here. Moving into crossover breakers, we have Malice. Now, we don't really have too much gameplay of Malice so far because, of course, the deck's not out yet, but just based off of potential, this is a very strong deck. It's a D-Shifter based deck. Looking at their entire lineup we have so far, we have Cheshire Cat, White Rabbit, and Dormouse as the 3 main deck monsters, Heart's Cryptor and Red Ransom as the 2 queens. We have 3 trap cards and 1 field spell so far. There could be more stuff. We don't know yet. But in terms of the main deck monsters, their gimmick, whenever they're banished, 300 life points, link lock you, summon themselves back. In other words, they come back whenever you kind of pay cost with them, or you're just playing under Shifter. Either way, it works really well. Even the link monsters, by paying 900 life points, they come back and they have additional effects as well. So Shifter is likely going to be a very big part of this, but if you want to open your combo without Shifter, you can go into like the perks of Cyberse, which would be playing Transcode Talker. You can play the line that leads into Neo Tempest's Hurts, which can set up your graveyard, and you can do that while just playing normally. You have access to Allure of Darkness, because Allure of Darkness is technically a card that banishes a dark. So in other words, you draw 2 cards and then you still get a free summon. So now it's literally a pot of greed for this deck, and this deck has access to it alone like that. It's very rare. I don't know if people are gonna try and even like bother with like Necroface. I think it'd be kind of funny if they do try something like that, because it just feels like you hit the right mill. It almost feels like you want to play like Tearlament. But regardless, each of these monsters, if they're linked to one of the link monsters, the Malice link monster will gain indestructibility from card effects, take 0 battle damage, and monsters that are destroyed by battle, they get banished instead. Now, as for the additional effects, who's the true starters? It's Dormouse and the White Rabbit. Dormouse, ignition effect, we can banish a Malice from your deck, and then all of your monsters gain 600 attack. That's 1 sort of turn. But once you banish that monster, you can summon it, so you lead into White Rabbit. White Rabbit comes out, and then you get to set a Malice trap from the main deck, right? But as long as it has a different name from the ones in your graveyard, which is fine. As for Cheshire Cat is your draw 2 by banishing a Malice card from your hand. So that's also pretty good, because you actually want your cards banished, because they get additional effects. What about the bosses? The Hearts of Cryptor. That one requires 3 monsters, a little bit harder. When it comes to the effects, it's just once per turn, but it has a quick effect to return any of your banished Malice cards. It has a non-target banished one that cannot be negated if it's pointing to a Malice monsters, I believe. If it's pointing to something, you can't negate this. And if it's banished, if you do banish this card for like a cost or whatever, pay 900, it comes back and double the attack. From 25, it'll go to 5k. And there is another card that can also boost it even further, which is the field spell. Link Malice monsters gain 3,000 attack if there's 3 banished Malice traps. So this can be 8,000 attack on its own. As for Red Ransom, this is your combo piece. It requires 2+ monsters and monsters it points to. If it does point to a monster, your opponent's attack and defense swap. Whenever you special summon this, add a Malice spell. So in other words, you use this to get your field spell. And if you banish this card, you can special summon it back, and then you banish a Cyberus monster from the deck, which can also lead into like your next monster being summoned out. So what about these trap cards? Well, all of them, you can activate them on the turn that they're set by banishing a face-up Malice monster. Okay, that's pretty easy. So in other words, you pay cost, they come back. It's more or less free, to be honest. GWC06, you can special summon out a Malice from the graveyard or banish. You can add a Malice from the deck, but if you do control a Link, you gain life points if you control a Link Malice, so it's like kind of your gain life in time S card. As for MTP07, you know, the Matt Tea Party, if you control a Malice Link monster, you have a non-target banish 1 card on the field. So this actually acts as a removal and an add 1. So it's like a +2. And then there's the TB if your opponent controls 3. So this is the one that summons out a Malice monster from deck. However, if your opponent controls 3 or more cards, you can special summon out one of your Malice Link monsters from the extra deck. So these are all very powerful trap cards that can be activated immediately. So they definitely fulfill the need for speed for trap cards. Okay, now we have the evil heroes. So far 9 cards, 3 main deck monsters, 3 fusion monsters, a trap card, and 2 spell cards. So far. There could be more. There probably will be more. They're really trying to blend in the super poly playstyle by having more cards that lift the restriction of Dark Fusion. Starting off with the first monster of Infernal Rider, which is like one of the originals of I guess evil heroes. Like Infernal Gainer's an original as well. They're not the corrupted version. This particular one helps you add Dark Fusion, but you can banish this card from the graveyard and 4 other monsters to set a super poly, and you hero lock yourself, but you also lift the Dark Fusion lock, so that super poly can rip apart your opponent's board. Then there's like Toxic Bubble, which is your draw 2, and it's a lot easier to get this one because it's a free summon regardless of your hand size. And it's also, if you control a Dark Fusion, you can summon it and then you can draw 2 cards because you have a monster that summoned through Dark Fusion. It's crazy. Wow. Actually getting Pot of Greed, Liquid Soldier, you just blend all these cards together. You're drawing like 4 cards after performing 1 summon. I don't know what you want to think about that. And then there's like Death Prison. Sounds cool. Cool name. Probably gonna get censored, but that's like the Prisma, which helps you replace the material. But on the other hand, the cool thing about this card, aside from getting a free special summon if you control like a Dark Fusion S monster, is that it has a cost to send a hero to grave, which can send your Malicious into the grave, and it just really sets you up for like DPE free summon. They have Neos Lord, which steals your opponent's monster on summon, and if your opponent sends a monster to the graveyard, you take control of a monster on the field, and these are permanent control swap. The card also cannot be destroyed by card effect, I believe, and it cannot be destroyed, either to be targeted or destroyed by battle, which makes it super annoying to deal with. So it's an end board boss that actually holds its ground as control changing. And then there's like the new Burstinitrix. But the new Burstinitrix and the Dark Knight, of course, these monsters, they are like the bruisers of the deck. They're there to help you gain like advantage and close out the game. Make your opponents lose attack equal to the fusion material. So in other words, you can zero out their entire board and just swing over everything. So that's a game-breaking opener, and it can attack twice. So naturally, it already deals like 32. And then Burstinitrix makes it so that anything that gets destroyed by battle by evil hero, they all burn 21. So if you look at the damage here, 32 plus the 42, and then in itself attack, that's already OTK on its own. So that's already really powerful. The spell cards, it's Itelli and Rhoda, locks you out, and then the Dark Contact essentially acts as a parallel world fuse, so you can just perform fusions by banishing those cards. So when you use the Gainer effect, then the Dark Contact is probably your best option to perform a fusion with whatever material that you have banished. And then the Trap card is no slouch, it's just Red Dragon, Archfiend Abyss, where you get to negate cards up to the number of you get to target up to the number of Dark Fusion reference cards in the graveyard and negate them. Yeah, why not? And you can also put back your material if it's in the graveyard. You can banish it and do that too. So ultimately, are these cards very powerful? I do think that this deck is very, very strong, and when it comes to playing against this matchup, you're going to need knowledge, otherwise you're going to get cooked because you don't know where you're dying. You could be getting killed from an OTK from Dark Knights, just reducing your board to 0 and just swinging in because they don't need to commit any more effects. So there's many ways for them to achieve lethal without fully breaking your board, and that's one of the scariest things about any Yu-Gi-Oh deck, the ones that don't need to break your board to OTK you. So this deck does seem like the deck that is capable of doing so. Not to mention that Neos Lord is a very powerful monster. DPE Neos Lord Dark Law, throw you an Angel on your side and throw a Prisma on board. Have fun. So I am really looking forward to how the meta shapes up. Seems like we have Water in the contention. We have Dark coming in after Water. So this is looking very promising for me, and I think it looks really fun. I think hopefully we get a ban list. I mean, honestly, I'm waiting for a ban list so I can do some damage report and maybe kind of refix up a little bit of TCG. But there's certain cards that definitely need to get banned. And maybe we'll talk about that next time. So until next time, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV. Like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you all in the next one.